Amakusa Shirou, leader of the Shimabara rebellion. His story begins in the Edo period. A greater portion of his life is shrouded in mystery. Since childhood, he devoted most of his days to education. By the time he turned 4, he was already able to recite Confucian literature. The people were shocked by this feat and found it quite impressive for someone his age. As he reaches 9, he begins to train under a samurai named Susa Hanajo. For 3 years, he studies under Hanajo's guidance, becoming a skilled swordsman. When Hanajo's ruler began to lose influence, Shirou makes his way back home. At 12, he continues on to Nagasaki and studies to become a medical doctor. In order to make a living, he begins to work for a Chinese merchant. The merchant was confounded by Shirou's aptitude. He praises the young man, stating that he's too intelligent to be doing such a low-class job. Meanwhile, in Western Japan, things weren't looking too good. So in the 13th century, the Chinese brought firearms to Japan. But to tell the truth, they sucked. So the Japanese didn't use them. I mean, look at it. What is this, a whistle? But when the 16th century rolled around, the Portuguese brought the real heat. You know, weapons that'll actually hurt somebody. These men were also Catholic, but the Japanese didn't mind because they wanted the weapons. So they were willing to look the other way. So everything's cool. Then all of a sudden, they start to Christianize everything, okay? Bibles and crosses everywhere. Even the feudal lords started following this religion. It's like, whoa, we didn't ask y'all to do all that. We just wanted the guns. People started to ignore the native beliefs like Buddhism and Shinto and just adopted Christianity. That wasn't even the problem. The problem was that they were literally forcing people to convert, and they were partaking in Japanese slave trade. Alright people, it's clear to be seen we gotta get these guys out of here. This is where they started to ban them. Toyotomi Hideyoshi issues an edict stating not to let these missionaries into the country. After this, he crucified 26 of them in Nagasaki to show this is not a joke, we do not want y'all in here. From that point on, it only got worse. After his death, Japan's government, or the Tokugawa shogunate, tightened up on this perspective even further. They claimed that these people were attempting to subvert the culture. We go over to Shimabara, Japan. Here lies a Japanese noble family called the Arama clan. The Arama clan was already converted. So the head of the family is Christian, and he's seeing all these people being persecuted for being Christian. Naturally, it's making him kind of uncomfortable. Back of his neck is sweating a little bit. He says that he wants out. So he asks could he be moved somewhere else. In his place, a new clan called the Massacre took their spot. And when this happened, literally all fucks were thrown out the window. For a multitude of years, the Massacre clan overtaxed their residents for no reason whatsoever, which later resulted in famine. When they moved to this domain, they started construction on the Shimabara castle. Guess who paid for it? Certainly not them, no, the same people that they overtaxed. And to add on, if you were Christian and you were on their turf, no talking, executed. It was a wrap. In Amakusa, Japan, it was no different. The lords would use rice as a land tax whether the farmers could come up with it or not. There was no concern for starvation or the drought that they were going through. If you don't pay your tax, I'm throwing your daughters in jail. Come on, fam. But what rain? What rain? You know we're in a drought. I don't give a damn what you're in. Just know, if you don't have that rice by tomorrow, I'ma bust your kneecaps. The Tokugawa shogunate were unforgiving. Christians were arrested, some of them were thrown into boiling water, some were buried alive. Farmers who couldn't pay got tied up in straw and set on fire. It was injustice. It seemed as if the future was dim for the villagers. However, Francis Xavier shared a prophecy that began to come into fruition. A child prodigy would appear and pull these victims from despair. This prodigy was none other than Shirou, who had just returned from Nagasaki. He drifts through Amakusa preaching the gospel. People, I've come from over yonder to give you this good word. Now if you'll so kindly turn to Nigalations. And he saith unto him, thou shalt never be bitch made. He took all the power in his backhand and blessed his oppressor. Hallelujah. You're a Kobe. The people were moved by his interesting assortment of words. Rumors started to spread among the villagers that whoever devoted themselves to the Lord would be relieved of their sorrows, but in other religions, they wouldn't survive. Shirou insisted on proving his authenticity to the villagers. A pigeon flew down and laid an egg in the palm of his hand. He then proceeds to pull a picture of Jesus from this same egg. How, Sway? He continued to perform these miracles, such as healing wounds and walking on water. Even though the religion was prohibited, the people started to worship him as the incarnation of God. This was no coincidence. Shirou was a spellcaster. In all honesty, he didn't know the fundamentals of magecraft. It was just a natural talent that came to him in bursts. This latent ability for the supernatural coined him as the boy of miracles. Their pain was alleviated by Christianity. It was the only thing the people had left. Unfortunately, the massacre tried to take that away from them too. Like Shirou's father, there was a myriad of samurai in this region who served the Christian warlord. This warlord was Konishi Yukinaga, but Yukinaga passed away, leaving his samurai to become Ronin. These Ronin were also Christian, and just like all the others, they were treated with the same disrespect. It got to a point where they couldn't take it anymore. They decided to band together and induct Shirou as their leader to rise up against the shogunate. Shirou did not deny this request, as he felt like these people were corrupt, they were evil, and that Christianity was the only true way. He adopts the name Amakusa from the region and begins his insurrection. Christians from Amakusa and Shimabara flocked to Shirou's side to aid him in this rebellion. They accepted him as their savior and agreed to obey his word to the very end. The rebels then make an attempt to take their feudal lord's palace, but their venture was fruitless. In search of a proper defense, Shirou's Amakusan army sailed to Shimabara. Here, they united with the rest of the followers and built palisades from the boats they traveled with. They also plundered weapons, ammunition, and provisions from Matsukura's storehouses prior to this. The rebels barricaded themselves inside Hera Castle. The shogun sent warlord Atakura to get rid of the followers. Masashi Miyamoto was also a part of the campaign as an advisor, but she got knocked off her horse by a rock, so nobody really knows she was there. The campaign begins. For some reason, the soldiers thought it would be a good idea to just rush in. Don't know why. They pull up to the castle and they get stomped. This was their first mistake. I guess they thought the Christians were pushovers or something. So they fall back, reinforcements come. It's like, okay, we just underestimated y'all. But now, it's over, son. The shogunate get pushed back again. Now, Atakura is feeling played. Man, y'all out here making me look bad. So he orders a full-blown attack. Many contingents tried with all their might, and they failed miserably. When Atakura tried to deliver one final blow, it was too late. His soldiers had already given up. So, he takes the few soldiers that were still willing to follow and rushes into the castle. A storm of bullets pick them off one by one, but the general makes it to the wall. As he attempts to scale the fortress, arrows pierce him directly through the chest. Shirou's leadership made their efforts look futile. Furious, the shogun sends a more seasoned warlord, Warlord Nobutsuna. Over 125,000 men surround the fortress. Beyond these men were anchored ships from the Dutch. They also had mounted cannons in the near distance. The warlord attempts to bribe them. Food, land, and tax relief only if they abandoned their faith and left the castle. Some of them did indeed defect, but majority stayed at Shirou's side. We refuse. You refuse? You telling me you're not afraid of all these men? No, we have the Lord on our side. Fine, have your religion. The general then decides to switch up his strategy. Instead of running headfirst into a barrage of arrows like the last guy, he decides to starve the Christians out. It was a devastating winter for the rebels. By March, they had run out of rice and resorted to eating the sacks that they came in. No water, no firewood, no gunpowder. Master Shirou, we're out of food. What do we do? Breathe, son. I want you to breathe. Now, feast your eyes on the powers of God. Behold. Wait, what? Are those posters? Yes. I'm putting these up to boost your morale. Those who stay with me will be my friends in the next world. Bro, I don't want morale. I want to eat. Suddenly, cannonballs came flying into the castle, barely missing Shirou's sleeve. Unfortunately, they did hit 5 of his comrades. Time passes. The rebels have become desperate. They attempt to steal food and ammo from one of the shogunate camps, but got caught in the process. The troops slay the rebels. After doing so, they pry open their stomachs to find that they've only been consuming leaves and grass. One of the rebels, Yamada, could endure the pain no longer. He betrays Shirou and tells the shogunate that they're struggling to get by. Nobutsuna's hour had finally arrived. He storms the castle with fire arrows swarming the outside walls afterwards. As their one and only defense burned to the ground, the rebels fought with anything in arm's reach. Empty guns, cooking pots, you name it. But it was useless. The shogunate rushed furiously toward the citadel. Shirou was forced to witness a gruesome scene right before his eyes. Heads removed from the elderly, children pierced by spears, girls deprived of their innocence. He felt like their deaths were his fault, that he had led them astray. He wields his sword against the invaders and fights until they dismember both of his arms. After wasting so many lives, he prayed to God that in his next life, he would successfully purge the evil and create a pure world. His final words, "I'll see you bitches in Apocrypha." Nearly 40,000 rebels were massacred that day, and the only one that did survive was the traitor from before. After Shirou's rebellion, he was sent to be executed by decapitation. At 17, the young priest had his head exposed outside Herod Castle, and then later at Nagasaki for anyone else who wanted to start a rebellion. They also sent 3,000 more heads to Nagasaki as a lesson to the rest of the Catholics. Christianity was banned from Japan entirely until the 19th century. All Japanese were required to walk on a Christian image to prove their loyalty to the shogun. That about wraps it up. If you enjoyed the video, please like it up so we can get this trending. Feel free to add information as you see fit, and let me know what